G'day everyone, BirtualConquer85 here, also known as Staz85 from the Minecraft forums. Today's video I'm just going to be going over a few of the new things that we've been adding to Continuum 1.3. As you'll know, Zeus V11 came out, which integrated a lot of new features, plus some bug fixes that we're able to put into Continuum. First off, there are going to be some new effects that you can play with. This shaders option menu will be getting a makeover as well as soon as I get some time, and I'm hoping to do a preview release within the next week as of this video. First off, I'm going to go over showing you the new 2D clouds and the volume clouds that Sonic Ether put in. I've put them in and put my own little spin on them. Beware though, they are a bit more frame rate heavy than our previous clouds, but they are another option for you guys to use. And this is how they're looking. The main benefit with these clouds that I've been able to see is that they are, they kind of look 3D or sort of like volumetric clouds, but without any sort of dither pattern ripple that we've been experiencing with our volumetric clouds. And these are a good alternative because they can actually render off in the distance a lot better than what the volumetric clouds can. And they do look quite nice at sunrise as well. This is what they look like during the nights. Now this version has only been worked on by myself over the weekend pretty much. Which is why it's only going to be released as a preview, as there still are some things that I want to get implemented, such as Joey and Deathraid's global illumination, as well as Bruce's extended shadows. I know that Sonic Ether has extended shadows and they are in this version, but they don't look as good. They need some work still. Alright, and moving on to now the water. The water will have caustics in Continuum 1.3. and this is how it's looking. Now I have added in the blur sort of look to the water underneath. This kind of helps get rid of a bit of the noise in the caustics under the water, but you can actually still turn these off. So if you come in here, you can go into water and there's a blur water function here. You can turn that off if you really don't like that blur under it. But this is what you end up with. You will get, a grain sort of look to it underneath the water. So I really probably would recommend leaving the blur on to try and fix this problem. Also, this is how it's looking underneath the water. And if you actually have the default Continuum volumetric clouds, you'll actually be able to see them through the water as well. So this is what it would look like if you just leave the default volumetric clouds on. You'll actually be able to see them from underneath the water as well. You also notice that shadows are now working properly underneath the water. No more temporary fix there. Alright, and the next improvement has been to ice. As you can see, ice is looking very, very nice now. No pun intended. Basically, we've been able to add a water depth fog to it. This probably, you might have seen already in previous versions, but it's always been left off by default. Mainly because ice, glass and water have always been sort of like connected. In Zeus V11 he actually fixed this, which we've been able to implement into Continuum. So now we can actually render them separately. So ice now also has refract through it as well, which is the same thing that you see in water, where it makes the blocks underneath all ripply. This one's just like a still thing on it. It only moves when you move. Has a certain amount of transparency, and just all around better. In case you haven't seen ice much in the previous Continuum, this is what the previous Continuum was looking like. So this is the previous Continuum of 1.2.2, and as you can see, ice actually removes water completely, so you're actually able to see all the way through to the terrain underneath. It was also a hell of a lot more shiny, and just all around looked really bad. But luckily we've been able to fix that in the upcoming 1.3. And back to 1.3. As you can see, it looks a hell of a lot better. Well, considering it started raining, I'll point out the other thing that's been kind of fixed as well, which is the rain particles falling down. They now actually render over the volumetric clouds to some extent. So if we go back to say 1.2.2, and this is 1.2.2, as you can see the volumetric clouds actually render over the rain, which makes it quite hard to actually see. But if we go back to 1.3, you'll notice that the rain now actually renders over the volumetric clouds. And now for the big event, which is the stained glass, which has proper transparency. Well, kind of proper. It's a hell of a lot better than what it originally was. So you can actually see straight through stained glass now. You can see the volumetric clouds behind them, all the objects. There is a refract to this as well, but I have toned it down to that of Sonic's V11. I understand that some people don't like this effect, and Continuum, we always like to make it as customizable for everyone. So you can actually come into the shader options, and it will be in here. I will try and sort this out better, but at the moment it's underwater, so you can actually turn that off, as well as the ice depth fog. If you don't want that for whatever reason, same with the water depth fog. There is also going to be a ice refract as well, which is just a misc at the moment. And you can turn them off, and there you go. So, although it does actually seem to make the volumetric clouds through them a bit more pixelated without it. And that's without the refract and the ice. But we'll go ahead and turn that back on because I quite like it. And this is with it back on. And yes, we've got coloured stained glass shadows now. Which is looking really nice. That and the proper transparency was extremely hard to put in. It was probably the hardest thing that I've had to put into Continuum yet. Not even global illumination was as hard as getting that to work. Alright, and next we have POM self-shadowing that Sonic Ether implemented as well, which is also working in Continuum now. It adds so much more to the blocks, in my opinion. Just looking at this cobblestone wall, you can see like the individual sort of shadows being cast just in here. And we'll do a little comparison. So this is 1.3, and we'll go back to 1.2.2. And this is 1.2.2. As you can see, it just looks really dull. It lacks a lot of depth to it. It basically just looks flat. So we'll go back to 1.3 again, and this is 1.3. So if I was to change the time, you'll see that the shadows actually update on it. So yeah, that's POM self-shadowing. And of course this one has our volumetric light, which hasn't really been affected much by these changes. It has lost a little bit of quality, I think, in it. That's just probably from the new shadowing rendering that we've had to do to get all the other fixes in. The other thing as well is you'll notice that bloom around the sun now picks up on the stained glass. So depending on what stained glass you're looking through is to what sort of colour the bloom takes on. So you got blue, pink, green, which is really quite cool. You will notice there will be a bit of light leaking around areas from where like bloom has been a bit funny. There was another thing that sort of changed a bit, which is the temporary underground fix. So with that on, in buildings like this, you won't see where the light is being cast. But if you go and turn it off, which is under the lighting tab, which might eventually change, we'll turn that off. And unfortunately it's picked up a little bug here where it kind of looks a bit strange. Not quite sure what's going on there, so that might need a fix, but as you can see the coloured stained glass is coming through okay. Now the other bug as well with the temporary underground light fix, at the moment I've got it turned off and you can see the light sort of coming in through these windows here, going all the way down to the ground there. You can see global illumination being a bit weird here, it's leaking a lot of light. This would be the same in Zeus V11 as well. Basically before I want to do a full release, I would like, as I said before, to get Joey and Death Raid's global illumination in, as they don't experience this sort of problem with it. But if we turn the temporary light fix on, which basically, you know, only allows light to come into a certain point and stops it, and unfortunately that has some bad bugs of its own. So this is with the temporary fix on. As you can see the light's not coming through anymore, but you will get this sort of bug here with the shadowing, doing some really weird sort of clipping and just really doesn't look very good. So these are known bugs. Unfortunately, not sure how to fix them just yet. I'm not sure if Joey, Bruce or Death Raid will be actually helping much with this version. Joey has actually already helped a bit. He took some time out of creating his new E-bin shader with Bruce to put in his HBAO. Now you may all remember, or possibly have even seen in 1.2.2 that the volumetric light, especially at morning and at evenings, would come straight through the walls if you're underground, as you can see right here. And also if you turned the temporary underground light fix off, you would end up with really bright walls all around the place. I'll just show you that now. So as you can see here, without the temporary underground light fix, you can see that the light is leaking underground. You can see light is bouncing all around the walls. To show this off even better, I'll turn volumetric light off for a second. Alright, so this is what it was looking like. You can see, light being scattered all through the room. It was a bit of a problem, which is why we implemented the temporary underground fix. But in Continuum 1.3, it has been fixed somewhat. I'll show you that right now. And this is Continuum 1.3. As you can see, volumetric light will no longer actually come through the walls at all, whether you got the temporary fix on or not. And I'll just show you, so you know that, sorry, volumetric light is on. It will not come through the walls anymore. And if we turn the temporary underground light fix off, you'll see that a lot of the light leak has been fixed. You still will get some, like off in the distance there, you can see. Although it seems to be more at a distance. So basically you guys will be able to decide if you want to leave the temporary underground light fix on or off. I'll probably have it set to off, considering that, you know, this light leakage is quite minimum now. Like, I don't know, it's kind of strange. But then again, if you have the temporary underground light fixed on, then there's those other bugs that I mentioned just before. So I think the lesser of two evils would be to leave it off for now. But no matter which way you go, volumetric light won't come through walls anymore. Yay! Another small change has been done to the specular as well. This one won't have PBR. I don't think that will actually be being put in Continuum, at least not for now. I've pretty much mentioned to Joey and Bruce that PBR could probably be more of a E-bin shader exclusive. It's pretty complicated, and trying to get it to work with Sonic Ether's code would be a massive task for him. So at this stage I think it's going to be more just exclusive to E-bin. But anyway, there are some changes to Specular. You can see it here on the iron blocks quite nicely. If we go back to 1.2.2, so you can see the comparison. And this is what it looked like in 1.2.2. As you can see, it was just a really just shiny blob on it. It really didn't have many highlights to it at all. You can sort of see it here on the big pillars and that. It was really quite shiny, same as on gold. But if we go back to 1.3 now, as you can see, it's still there, there's still a shine, but it just has a lot more detail in it. It's vastly improved in my opinion. You can still see the shine on it, but it's just not blinding you anymore, which is something I really like. Now lastly, before I go, just doing a comparison of the frame rates. I have noticed that there has been about a 5 to 10 frame rate loss, unfortunately, from 1.2.2. But that is kind of narrowed down to Sonic Ether's new SSAO. Unfortunately, even Joey's HBAO takes off a bit of frame rate as well. But you can disable those, and also the POM self-shadowing does take about 2 or 3 frames off as well. So you probably can get it back to pretty similar frame rates as 1.2.2, but as you can see, it's hovering around 64 frames a second. This is on the high setting. If we go back to 1.2.2, and this is Continuum 1.2.2. As you can see, it's hovering around 69, probably close to 70 frames a second. So there has been about a 5 FPS loss, but then again, it doesn't have POM self-shadowing or the new filters on the water, the new transparency rendering of glass and stained glass, I should say. So you probably could turn some of those off and you'll get roughly the same sort of performance. So yeah, that just about wraps up this video. I just wanted to get this video out quickly to just show you all what's to expect in the 1.3 version of Continuum. The preview version they'll be releasing pretty soon will be on Facebook only for now. Hopefully it will be up on our website at some point. but it will just be a preview, as I want to try and fix the extended shadows and get in our global illumination before a full release. Also, I would like to get some feedback from the community on how it's running, if there's any bugs, that sort of thing, because this was a big task to update to all this stuff, like a big task. So I'm sure some things might be broken, might be missing, possibly some extra bugs that I'm unaware of so far. So yeah, expect the release on our Facebook page within the next week. So until next time, catch you later.